We are recording this, guys, so it is going to be available for you. We are building a YouTube channel, so I've got one video loaded in there already. Just talked to David, and David's got a couple videos that he's got recorded from previous webcasts. So we're going to try to build that thing up for you so you can access it, but it's only going to be available for those who participate on the webcast on a weekly basis. So the reason for that is we want you to have that opportunity to learn from us, listen and things like that, and interact. But the recording is there so you can play it back again. It's important to hear things a couple of times in a row. And I also don't want to diminish the need to be on this webcast every week, because we're really pouring a lot into this. David and I, we really care about you and your team. So this is our first meeting together in person, guys. So we're breaking history again, just like we love to do.
Might go good, might go terrible.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
I'm sure it'll be fantastic with Dave. All right, so let's kick this thing off. So success happens one day at a time, day after day. Consistency wins the race in the end. And so we're going to introduce something to you, David and I. We worked really hard with the other regionals in the state, as well as Jeff Kleiman and Scott Webb. Kim Webb was also involved, Misty Sharp. And so we got together and we really wanted to define that 200-point system, because this is going to give you the consistency in your business that you need so you can be successful and you can be where David and I are. Or if you want to be an associate, which is the best job in Aflac, and have that freedom and flexibility, we want you here for 10 years, 15, and 20 years down the road. People like Jack Frine, that's been with us for going on 13 years.
But the goal is to put together a system that gives you a roadmap so that you know what needs to be done every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year. Because what happens a lot of times is people get a lot of activity. They'll get a couple of accounts, and while they got those accounts, the activity drops. Then they start all over again. And it's much harder to get the ball rolling than it is to keep the ball rolling. And so that's what this system is designed to do. Give you a system that will allow the ball to continue to roll no matter where you are in your cycle.
So this is an outline of this. We emailed this to all the districts, or they will be getting it very shortly. But ask your district, we can print it out. But you can also find this on AZ Desert Storm, and all you do is hit the library tab and just type in 200 point. Just 200 point in the search tab, and then click search. It'll take you right to these documents. So on the new system, you're going to accumulate points, and these points are going to accumulate to 200 points throughout the week. This is going to keep that consistency and that ball rolling for you. So I'm going to cover a couple of them. I'll cover the first three and then go on from there. So telephone dials, they're going to be a 0.25. So a quarter of a point, that's going to qualify. So every time that you pick up the phone, 4 phone calls is going to equate to 1 point. And then in-person approaches is 2 points each. That's walking into a door physically and attempting to contact the decision maker. And then the third one is in-person follow-ups. We're going to give you an additional point for that, because we want you to go back to those accounts that you worked hard to walk through the door the first time.
So the goal on those, and I'm gonna recap, because a phone call is really very, very important, whether you're calling to make sure that you got the right person or you're calling to follow up. Making sure that we do those follow-up phone calls is important, because the key is on this Elevate system, when we're going in there and making an in-person approach, and then we're following up by dropping off an Elevate system, we got to make sure we got the phone calls in there. And so let's make sure that you understand why we're doing these, because you can, as it gets hot or people's cars break down or their kids get sick, you still got to keep doing that activity. And so making phone calls is a great activity. But what we put together this system for is so that different people can do different things that works for them. What works for me might not work exactly the same for Eric. What works for Eric might not work exactly the same for you. And so we want everybody to try these different tools. And then as you've used it over time, you'll realize, listen, I don't get the results that I get on a phone as I do walking in a door. Or some of you, I will tell you, will get a lot of results on the phone And so this gives you, there's a lot of ways to do this business. And so it allows you to kind of pick and choose what best fits your needs. Now, I can't see very good, so you might have to help me.
So the next one is DM contacts made. So we give you 1 point. So when you walk through that door, or you actually talk to the decision maker over the phone, when you make that contact, you get an additional point. So technically, if it was a phone call and you reach the decision maker, it's 1.25.
That's right. And if you walked in the door and saw the decision maker, that's going to be 1 point for walking in the door, 1 point for seeing the decision maker, because you can obviously see the value that if you walk in the door and you're only seeing the administrator or the secretary or a salesperson, that walk-in is not going to be as valuable as if you walk in and see the decision maker. But it's going to be much more valuable than if you didn't walk in the door. So it gives you points for activity and gives you points for results.
That's perfect. And then DM presentations appointment set, so you get 2 points for that. And then DM decision presentations ran 3 points for that. So a lot of times when we walk, well, not a lot of times, but sometimes when you walk through that door, you may meet the decision maker. So you pulled the door open, you get 1 point for that. You contacted the decision maker, so this decision contact has been made. That's an additional point. But what if you're able to set up an appointment right then and there with that decision maker? You're going to actually get 2 points for that. What if he says, hey, come on back and sit down with me and let's have a conversation, because I'm slow right now. We can talk right now. You do get the additional 3 points for that. So what we want you to understand is we want you to, the 200-point system is important, but you want to make sure you're getting credit for every single piece of that activity model that equates to that 200 points at the end of the week.
And so it doesn't matter whether you see that person right then and there. You might walk in the door and see the admin. You come back 2 days later and you get to see the DM, and he says, you know what? I can see you next Tuesday. So now you're getting credit for setting up that appointment. When you go back on Tuesday, you're getting credit for having the appointment, because there's different values associated depending on how much success you're having. And so the more DMs you get to talk to, the more that's worth. But it's not going to be worth as much as if you actually set up the appointment and keep the appointment. Because just because he set up an appointment, I promise you that doesn't mean he's going to keep the appointment or she's going to keep the appointment. So you get points for having the meeting, which is clearly you can't get, a group until you have the meeting. I know a lot of people who are great at walking through doors, but don't set up enough appointments. There are some people who set up a lot of appointments, but don't actually, have the appointment stick. And so there are people, especially when you're brand new, you might walk in the door and set up an appointment with who you think is the DM. But when you get there, it turns out you're meeting with the wrong person. And so this gives us an opportunity to evaluate both what your activity is and what your success is, so that we can fine tune either what you're doing or what you're saying, so that we can help you have as much success as possible.
And David's exactly right. If we're watching what you're doing and we're able to track this, and you're turning in your 200-point system sheets in, we're able to identify, hey, why is this person going into 70 doors in a week and they only got 1 or 2 appointments? Man, we got to work on the skill set issue of asking for the sale. So this is really going to help us with training you as well. So AAOD call is worth 5 points. So once you pick up the phone and you make that AAOD call, that's worth 5 points. Enrollment scheduled, new and existing, 2 points. So Jack Frine, you can get points for rescheduling your open enrollments, man. So make sure that you're capitalizing on that as well. This is great for veterans as well as new associates. And then BCI received. So think about this. You go to an account, you open the account, they're happy with your service because we're Aflac. And then you just say, hey, listen, do you know of somebody else that I might be able to talk to? What's much more effective than just asking for a referral is asking for a business card. So make sure that you're just saying, hey, listen, can I get about 3 or 4 of your business cards, and have them hand it to you, and then turn around and say, hey, do you mind, because you're happy with my service, writing on the back of those, can I give Eric or give Dave 10 minutes of your time? I'm glad I did. That's all that needs to be on the back of that business card. And then that is able to be a referral source for you.
And you see what this is doing is this is allowing us to give you credit for the time you're putting in, because that if you're not asking those businesses that you're dealing with for referrals, you're missing the boat. But what if you meet with some centers of influence that don't have a business? We want to make sure you get credit for that, because there's some value in meeting with your pastor or your minister or your rabbi and giving some referrals to their network. There's some value in meeting with, you know, a mayor or a councilman and getting some value. They might not have a business that you can do, but this is going to give you credit for that activity, because this is all activity-based work.
Perfect. And so you also get credit for AP written, so it's 5 points for every 1,000, and every new account opened, you're getting 5 points. So you get 5 points, and it's not either or, you get both. 5 points plus 5 points for every $1,000 in AP. So you can accumulate, if you have great enrollment, you can accumulate close to 150 points in a great enrollment. So
let me tell you why we do that. Because if you are at an enrollment and you have to spend 3 days there, guess what you can't possibly be doing? You can't possibly be still, you know, spending those 3 days pulling on doors. But you spend 3 days there, the odds are you're not going to get 200 points in that enrollment. So this means that even though you've got enrollments going on, you got to continue to do the prospecting to make sure that you're hitting at least minimum 200 points every week, because this is designed so that you don't have those big sways where you got an appointment that week, so you did no follow-ups or elevates. And so this gives you a broad-based system that allows you to make sure you're doing enough activity every single week to continue that success.
That's key. So here's the worksheet. So this just basically peels it out Monday through Friday. And listen, if you're somebody asked me a question, can I still get points on the weekend? You know, if you're calling on the Saturday, or you have an enrollment on Sunday, make sure that you put it into one of those days. And to my recommendation, and you know, Dave, you can interject for your team, but I put it in on Friday, you know, because if you did that work in, you know, Saturday, I'd accumulate those points on Friday or accumulate it on Monday, because it's going to count for the following week. So just make sure you're getting credit for the work that you've done. Right,
because the reality is it doesn't matter when you do it.
That's right.
It doesn't matter when you put it on there, as long as you're not holding it for next month, because what I don't want to see is you get 300 points this week and you put 200 points in there and you're carrying 100 points till next week. This activity's got to be done week in and week out. If you do 300 this week, guess what you got to do next week? 200. Still got to do 200. That's the minimum number. And so
very good point.
This allows you, though, to get some done on the weekends and plug it into Friday or Monday. To me, that doesn't really make a difference as long as you're tracking what the points are and you're accumulating enough points.
That's exactly right. So keep track of your success, and you will need to definitely, at least for the Alliance, I know for sure, this is going to be a part of PACE. And so the 200-point system, I'm going to ask you to fax or email the image to Deb so we can keep track at the regional level on your activity every week. And then I'm just going to call some people out. You know, I'll call them on the phone and say, hey, man, is everything okay? Because I care about you. If we don't receive a 200-point sheet from you, I'm going to be concerned. What's going on? So if you're going on vacation, type me a little email. You don't have to ask permission. But I want to make sure that you're involved in your business every day. What David pointed out was saying we don't want these peaks and valleys in your business. And I'm telling you, I did not. My first year with Aflac, I had one check that 1 week when I didn't get a paycheck. And do you know why? It's because I put effort into my business every single week, and I made sure that every week I had a couple enrollments scheduled just in case an enrollment fell out on me. So that's the consistency. And if you operate at 200 points every single week, you're going to see that consistency and you're going to see your income grow.
That's key, because when you're a new person, you've got to start bringing in money right away. And this is the system that allows you to make sure you're doing enough work day in and day out. And each region is going to do things a little bit differently. Yep. But for the Mavericks, I can tell you that when we have these PACE weeks, this is a much easier way for me to track it, because now, instead of 200 points, I'm going to want 300 points a week on those PACE. And so it means that if you've got enrollment scheduled, you're still going to get credit for that. In our old system, we used to only give credit for the doors you were walking in during PACE. This allows the system to mean we're expected a little bit more during those PACE weeks, but that doesn't mean it's all got to be door knocking. And for us, for the Mavericks, I know that during pace weeks, a lot of times either our numbers wouldn't be good or we wouldn't have the accounts because we were freeing those days up. This system allows you to know that during pace we're expecting a little bit more, but you can still get more. If you've got a enrollment scheduled, you're still going to get credit for those.
That's right. Credit for your work and activity. You want to touch on plan?
Sure. So you've got to plan your work and plan and work your plan, which means to me, success starts on Sunday. When you come in on Monday, if you don't already know where you're going, who you're seeing, and what you're doing for that week, you are a day behind. I know it doesn't matter to some regions and some people plan their stuff out. They get up early Monday morning, plan it out. As long as your plan is done by the time you go to Monday morning meeting, that's okay. To me, my plan is always on Sunday. Success starts on Sunday for me, which means on Sunday, I want to know where I'm going, who I'm seeing, and how I'm going to accomplish what I need to accomplish. And that means, do you know where you're going to accomplish those 200 points? And so if you have a wildly successful enrollment, that's a bonus. If you're counting on a wildly successful, enrollment, then I don't think you've done a good job planning, because you've got to make sure you've got enough time and activity in there to get those 200 points. And this 200-point system is not a goal. It is a minimum expectation. And so if you plan ahead of time, it is very, very doable. I mean, there's nobody, 200 points, if you had no enrollment scheduled, that means you're talking about just walking into 200 doors. And that means if you didn't see anybody, and that means if you didn't have any elevates from last week, because you're getting points for elevating those. And so plan this and then work the plan. It's almost dummy proof. That's what it's designed to be. And this gives you a point value so you know what's worth. Clearly, 200 phone calls is not going to give you the same return on as 200 in-person calls. And, this allows you to understand what it takes in each category in order to make sure you're doing the minimum work required for a full-time person.
So if you were traveling from Flagstaff to Havasu, or if you were coming up to see me from Phoenix to Mesa up to Flagstaff, and David and I were going to have lunch, listen, do you think David would get in his car with an eighth of a tank of gas and go, I might be able to make it? There's no way. He could make it in his BMW up the hill with an eighth of a tank of gas. So this 200-point system is like putting gas in your fuel tank. If I know that if I put 200 points in my system every single week, it's going to give me X result, right? And so that's the focus, guys. So the next piece that I wanted to cover with you is we are what we repeatedly do. And so David couldn't tee it off any better than that. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. This is going to create that habit for you, so there's consistency. I want you to be able to budget based on your activity to know how you're going to pay your bills, or whether you want to buy that new home. What price should the home be? Well, listen, you are a business owner, which means you have to take personal responsibility for your business. This is your opportunity. There's two choices in life. You can be an entrepreneur or you can work for one. And I'm telling you, David and I brought you on board our teams. I guarantee it, you desire to be an entrepreneur. You want to decide how much money you make. But here's the thing, you got to be consistent and you got to create those right habits. So plan your 200 points, and David touched on this. Maximize your success strategy with the following: new accounts and new relationships. That's what this is designed to do, to get you to act so you can create those new accounts by creating those new relationships. Step one, you need to divide and do an inventory check. What you plan out for next week is what you're putting on your store shelf to be sold. And what I mean by that, you can't sell product without inventory. So your leads, the things that you're working on, your intentions for this week, is your inventory, so you can have sales and you can have deposits in your bank account. Step two is productivity.
And so divide and conquer your time, which means that this 200-point system is a baseline, but it is not the be-all, end-all. You've got to track it, and you've got to make sure your time is as productive as possible. What I mean by that is, yes, you'll get 200 points by walking into 200 doors. But you don't want to walk into 200 different doors next week, and 200 different doors the week after, and 200 different doors the week after. That's why we track it and see what your success is, because we have an Elevate system for a reason. The Elevate system for a reason is because if you're not making the best use of your time, and the best use of your time means that it might take 8 to 12 stops to get an account, which means your best time is going back that second, fourth, sixth, eighth time. And so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about, productivity and conquering your time schedule. There's no way to get to a sixth call on a group if you haven't done the second and the fourth call. And so you start where everybody starts, and that's at 0. You're in the office, you're making a plan. If you're brand new, you have not made a single stop yet. So the first step is to either make a phone call or go in person. Really, the first step is to know where you're going to go, and then to make those stops and calls. But understand the value is in the second, fourth, sixth, eighth, 10th time, because if you know how many employees you need to get in front of to make the amount of money you want to make, then we can put that system together for you that says, here's how many times you got to touch this group. Because if it's a 10-man group, the odds are you're not going to need to touch it as many times as if it's a 50-man group. But this allows you to plan it and conquer it, because if you know, and this is about you tracking your times, because I promise you, Eric's got a little bit more passion and enthusiasm than I have.
No, I don't think so.
Regardless. And so it might take him less stops. And so you got to know how many stops does it take you, because as a new person, even if Eric's got more passion than I do, I promise you a brand new person is not going to have the knowledge that I have. And so the odds are I'm going to be able to walk into a door less number of times to get a group than you are. So you have to know how many times does it take to get and walk into a group of less than 25 people. How many times does it take to walk into a group less than 50 people? How many times does it take to walk into a group of 100 people, so that when we're planning your calendar and we're planning how much money you need to make, we're tracking that on what you did last month and last quarter. If you're a new person, my assumption is that with this consistent activity, you're going to get better this quarter and next quarter, so that you're going to exceed what your plan is, because you're going to get better at it. But if you don't know what your numbers are, then you're just hoping and guessing. And hoping and guessing is not planning going to get you where you need to get.
Exactly right. And step 3 is act. So like David was talking about, conquering your time, that's like your GPS. So he's coming up to Flagstaff. If he's never been there before, now it's a pretty straight shot, so I know Dave can make it. But if you've never been there before, you MapQuest it, right? But you can't get there unless you act. Literally, picture yourself in your vehicle right now. Picture yourself there. How would you get anywhere unless you put it in drive and step on the gas? When you open the door, it's like you stepping on the gas of that car to get you to the destination you want to be. You have to act, guys. You don't get anywhere without putting your foot on the pedal.
Let me give an example.
Yeah, please.
This is a great example.
Oh, don't do that.
I'm going to give you a very great example.
It is
So,
turning.
Eric and I were getting ready to go to, where were we going?
Tonto.
Tonto,
Yeah.
right? Eric clearly did not know exactly how to get there. So he MapQuested out there, and he had a plan to get from point A, almost where we are right now, to get there. Now, I knew where we were going, but I was following him. Now, he got there, right? So his plan got him where he needed to be, but it wasn't the most effective way. We might have went about 25 miles out of our way to
He
get
said it
there.
was an hour, by the way. He said I went an hour out of the way.
But if he didn't know where he was going,
Right.
he would have never got there. So at least a plan allows you to get from A to Z. It might not get you the best way. And so this tracking allows you to get there the fastest way. But without a plan, you won't get there at all, is what my point is.
Now,
And so there's a lot of ways to get there.
Well, here's the cool thing. Now, he's being nice to me right now because he's not trying to embarrass me. But literally, I went all the way around a different way. But to David's point, he's a great coach because he goes, man, why did you go that way? Dude, you could have just taken this road and it would have cut off like an hour or 45 minutes of time. And so that's what this 200, I think that David just nailed it. That's what this 200-point system, because we can say, hey, listen, you're doing all this activity, but why aren't you getting to the result? Why can't we get you to $50,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year quicker by taking a shorter route? And it's not less effort, It's just more efficient
Right.
effort. That was an awesome example, man. And you can make fun of me if you want to, because we're brothers.
I'm make a little
So-
fun of you.
And you should, man, because I look funny waking up in the morning. So now again, make sure you got to plan that activity out. So do you have enough leads? So you want to walk out of that office today, or if you're doing it this weekend, you're doing it on homework or doing it on Sunday, make sure that you, before that Monday morning meeting, like Dave talked about, you have 200 points planned in your calendar worth of activity. And so you can use Sales Genie. I know in State Sales School, they talk about Reference USA. I'm fine with either one of those vendors, but here's the thing. We just want you to make sure that you have leads already built. You know where you're going. I use the phone book. You know what I did? Here's a little marketing tip. It's funny, when you pick an industry, like I picked automotive, you know what was funny is that they all had the same pain points. The second automotive account I opened up had the same issues as the first one. In fact, number 9 also had the same issues as the first and second one I opened up. So I opened up the phone book and I just Googled, well, I actually Googled it online and just said all the automotive shops in Tempe, Arizona, if I'm in Phoenix, or if I'm in Lake Havasu, all the automotive shops in Lake Havasu. And then what I did is I printed out that yellow page listing, and then I basically used a highlighter and I went to every single one of those businesses that were not on the do not contact list. That's a plan. That's a strategy. I can build that and I can attach points to that so I can make sure that I accumulate those 200. So this is just like a little example I've got up on the screen here. This is how you should have it, and notice that it's in order of the address. So you can walk down the street if you're doing just mass marketing. We don't want you to star it, and star it means I'm going from Tempe to Mesa, down to Gilbert, or over to Gilbert, down to Chandler. Man, if that is your day, you're losing productivity. You want to, when you're in a specific market, you want to maximize that impact in your market.
Great. And so there's a lot of ways to do this. I mean, this is an example of you're going to a neighborhood or an area and you want to make sure you maximize it out. I would tell you that the research that needs to be done is you need to know where you're going. Not only do you need to know where you're going, you need to know who you're going to see. Not only do you need to know who you're going to see, but you need to know what Aflac customers are in that area so that you can point those out. Not just avoid them, but be able to use them. If you're using a system that says, I'm going to hit all the automotive places, I'm going to hit all the barbershops, whatever it is you're going to hit, you want to know where are they so that you can map them out. Who has Aflac, who doesn't have Aflac? Because if you go to an automotive shop, and I'm talking to, Tom, the automotive owner, and I say, Tom, I'm Dave with Aflac. I'd like to get on your calendar. And he says, well, I'm not interested. My people aren't going to be interested. If you say, well, to me, that's a little strange because, Rick and James and Fred all are offering Aflac. And so just a little curious, what's different between your employees as opposed to those employees that can take some of that bite right out of some of those objections? But if you don't know that, if you go home and then you have a conversation with Dave or with your district manager or with your regional manager, and then they tell you, well, did you say this or did you say that? You lost that opportunity. And so you've got to make sure you're planning out ahead of time, not just where you're going, but what happens if you see them? Make sure you're ready.
And also, too, like to Dave's point, if you walk out of there and you go, I should have said this or that, man, and everybody does this, everybody that really thinks in their business and trying to self-coach themselves, I found a way to go back into those businesses. When they say something like, man, I don't think my employees would be interested in it, and Dave would run that play if he was there, but if I forgot, here's what I would do. I would plan to stop back at that business. I'd put it in my calendar. Every single stop that I make has a follow-up attached to it. So here's what I do. I come back, and so what if I forgot? So what if I tripped over my tongue? Because that happens when you're marketing. But I walk back in there and I say, you know what? I thought about what you said, and I thought it a little strange that your employees didn't want Aflac, but here I'm helping out ABC Automotive, Jim over there, Ted over at A Action Automotive, and so you can relate it back. So even if you feel like you screw up when you walk out of there, don't be afraid to go, hey, I thought about what you said, and here's a different take on it, right? So just make sure you don't, because here's what happened. When I was a new associate, there was it was called Steve's Automotive, some of you have heard of this, but here's the thing. I went in there and I tried to sell my first decision maker appointment. I tried to sell the guy an accident plan. It was the worst decision maker presentation probably in Aflac history. I'll be honest with you. And he goes, I don't really see the value. And then I kept driving by his business, and my partner goes, hey, Eric, you're a lot better now. You should go back in there. Fear kept me from getting that account. You know what was weird? We opened up 5 accounts around that business. So what David's talking about, I walked right into that business because Carol kept bugging me. So I finally went into that business and I said, you know something, Steve? Since I've approached you, I've opened up Main Street Animal Clinic, Coyote Auto, Naughty Pine Cafe. I named off 5 businesses right around his business. And he goes, sure. Well, when can you see my employees? Next week? He told me flat no. But the thing is that he was ready to say yes. He liked me. He smiled when he saw me. But fear kept me from reapproaching that business. So we can't let that happen to you guys. Don't learn from my mistake.
And let me just tag on there, because most of you, a lot of you, some of you have heard this story before. A no isn't always a no. I will tell you, you got to learn from the trainers that you're getting from. When somebody used to tell me no, I take them off my list. They would never see me again. That's the wrong approach. I can tell you from being on this side. I'm going to give you an example or 2 examples that I use over and over again because they just happened. And so in December, I had this couple, they weren't a couple, but these 2 people come into my office, wanted to sell me some toner for my copy machines and that kind of stuff. Well, you all know that the fourth quarter is our busiest. I had 100 things going on trying to hit end of the year numbers. I told them no, not interested. Don't care about the savings. It's not. I don't spend enough money on toner for this meeting to be worth my while. And then they left. I have never seen them since. But you know what happened to me in January? My dang machine started running out of toner. And so my administrator, Sally, she said, don't you wish you had set that appointment with them? And I smiled. And you know what happened in the beginning of February? A different person from a different company came in my door, wanted to talk about toner. Guess what happened to that person? He made a sale. Because even I told those first people no, and I was serious. No, not interested. But that was a time situation. It really wasn't that I don't have a need or want for your business. And they should have known that. And so that's an example for you all that even when we're told no might not really be no. You know, unless you can identify that they don't have any employees, or the employees they got are all teenagers. There are some situations where no might be a no, but it's less than 1%. That means 99% of those people that tell you no, what it means is not now. Don't discard them off your list. That means you got to come back and just continue to follow up with them. Another time, earlier than that in November, this guy came into my office without an appointment. I was doing the interviews, and so I was unavailable to talk to him. He was selling windshield repair. Now here I am, sitting with a car in the parking lot with a big chip in my window. He walked into a business that had somebody who had both a need and a want for what he was selling. Didn't get a chance to talk to me. Never followed up. So you know what happened? Almost 6 weeks later, took my car in for service. You know what the service department said? You got a chip in your window. You want us to call the window guy? Sure, it's covered by insurance. So somebody made that sale, but not that guy because he didn't continue to follow up. This system we're talking to you about gives you a system to follow up. So don't think a no is not a no. And if you don't get to talk to the person, if you don't come back, you're not going to get a yes.
I can tell you and I'm not going to go on because I think that was perfect and I don't want to cut that short, but man, I can count 3 big businesses that are now accounts for Aflac today that I just didn't follow up on. And one of them I was following up for a year. Guys, I don't stop, but man, in these 3 cases I did. How many times are you going out there and approaching and reapproaching businesses and you give up right before success is about to happen? And then Colonial walks through the door, right? I feel bad, because, I could have made the sale from those 3, but I'm glad they're with Aflac. But listen, I don't want your hard work and effort and your spike in their interest to have Colonial come in and reap your harvest. That's not fair. So this is, Dave, this is your
How do you know you're real?
I'm just kidding. I'm joking around. So who do you know? And so what I did, I pulled the who do you know list up. So again, with divide and conquer your time, guys, prep before you go. So just to recap what Dave was talking about, success starts on Sunday. I like to have my planning in by Friday, but listen, if I don't have my plan in by Friday, I'm going to make sure I have my plan in by Sunday night because I want to know what I'm doing and where I'm going. You can see this, an example, I'm already planned out for July. My activities for July are already planned and submitted to my administrator so she can start scheduling me. So guys, we're practicing what we preach. Be prepped and ready to go before the Monday morning meeting.
Yep. If you come to Monday morning meeting, you're not ready, you are unemployed. Because a lot of Aflac people, especially new people, they do their Monday morning planning after the Monday morning meeting. Well, you know what that happens? You wasted a day. I mean, maybe you wasted 3/4 of the day, but the reality is you really wasted the whole day. And you only got 5 days. You wasted a day, that's 20%.
That's right.
That means you're giving 20% income, leaving it on the table, assuming you are that successful for the rest of the days. And so there are a lot of part-time people. And so if you're a part-time person, you can do your plan on Monday if you're working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But that means you need to have a part-time income to go along with that part-time activity. And there's nothing wrong with it. There are a lot of people who say, listen, I'm supplementing my spouse's income, or this is a part-time job. If this is a part-time job, then I have no problem with you doing your prep work on Monday if you're working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But 99% of the people listening to this webinar or who are on with us, this is your full-time job. This is your full-time job. You better be prepared on Sunday so that on Monday you can go to work, because you can't afford to leave 20% of your money on the table, I don't think. Maybe some of you all have that much money, but I know most of you. And so I don't feel like I'm going out on a limb that say you need every dollar you can get, especially in the beginning.
That's right. And listen, think about, when I got a little nervous the first couple of weeks I was with Aflac and then really started kicking it quick. But man, you think about this, you go out and you get a part-time job and they pay you $250 a week. That's one freaking policy, or 1.5 in some cases. Like, it's insane. I could sit down with one person, sell a direct policy, and it would pay me for the 20 hours that I worked at, XYZ company. So guys, listen, just go out there and schedule appointments, schedule meetings with decision makers, man. But listen, when you're in the coffee shop, don't be afraid to approach those people as well. So look at Monday morning as Monday morning as the launch pad. So guys, NASA doesn't launch a rocket ship without being prepared, everything fueled and ready to go, and then they start that countdown, man. Then it starts ticking down. And you know what? They're all ready to go. They have astronauts in there, but listen, if they didn't have fuel in the tank, they wouldn't even be shooting it with the camera because it wouldn't be ready to go. Be ready to go Monday. Treat it like a launch pad.
Right. They don't on launch day, they don't then fill up the rocket with fuel. I think that's what you're getting at.
That's right. They did it Friday if it was being shot Monday, right? So
the quality of your prep shows in your results. I mean, those people who go out, and there are some successful people in Aflac who don't have a plan, whose plan is, I'm going to walk out this door and call on 200 people, and they got a Rolodex or a binder or whatever so they know who they're following up with. That's a system that works for them. I don't have that kind of a mind. I've got to have mine on paper, on a calendar. And so when we're talking about quality, means sometimes if you're not having the success, you're not going in the right places. I mean, if you're going into, McDonald's and Burger King and the gas station, because that happens to be in between your house and the office, those might not be the right businesses for you. If the only thing you're doing is going into attorney's offices and you don't have that kind of a background or that kind of a comfort level, you're not going into the right places. And so if you'll come from a blue collar background and you say, listen, I'm working with AC companies and construction companies, that's your thing, then you need to know where you're going to go, how many employees do they have, what your comfort level is, so that you can focus on the stuff that's going to be most successful for you. If you're bald, you might not be going and lining up all the beauty parlors.
I did. No, hold on. I did.
You might, but I'm not saying you can't be successful. I'm not saying you can't be successful, but if you're not going there, if you don't have a comfort level with that, or you don't have the personality that'll talk to anybody, or make a joke about it when you walk in the door, then that's one thing. But I promise you, if you walk in the door and you feel out of place or uncomfortable, and I'm going to give you a quick example. in not my current office, my last office, I hired this guy who was a retired lawyer. He did nothing but call out law offices. He had the same educational background, talked the same language, had a comfort level there. In my entire 6 years with Aflac, I only called on 2 attorneys' offices. They intimidate me a little bit. That's my thing. Why would I go into a place if I don't have a comfort level there? And so know what your comfort level is. Plan the activity that will give you the most amount of success. If you're calling on nothing but small pizza shops who hire nothing but teenagers, you're setting yourself up for failure. So what we're talking about, the quality of your prep is not just knowing where you're going to go, but are you going to the right places?
That's right. Exactly right. So making sure, and I just got an example up here of a pack-filled calendar. So if I wanted to plan, I guarantee you, man, if you look at that calendar, that is way over 200 points. That's more like 350 points. But listen, it's planned activity. I have it blocked off. Notice on Tuesday, I have a spot for phone calls. Look, even if you're a little afraid of the phone, I was too. I found out that was my best time to set appointments for me because I got on the phone and just started talking with people, and I would set up multiple appointments. But this way, you're able to capture both marketing, you have enrollments planned, hopefully, and if you don't, you can pick up more points with more marketing activity so that you can have those enrollments in the future. Make sure that you're planning out your lunch, and that sounds funny, but listen, all the weird stuff that interrupts our day, oh, I got to do an SIC code, oh, I got to check my email, oh, I got to submit claims. Don't let that be in the green time between 9 and 11:30 or 8 and 11:30. Make sure you're capturing that at noon during lunchtime so you can respond to all those things and then jump right into activity and be active for the rest of the day. And then listen, if you got dinner at 5 o'clock with your family, you guys eat early, I'm okay with you stopping at 4. Just smash the activity in so you can get it accomplished, and then do your emails, follow up, submit your claims, things like that. So that way you can have a wonderful dinner with your family. But if you notice I have a high level of energy, it's because I compress a bunch of activity in short blocks of time. So divide and conquer your market. Just remember, you identify the zip code you're marketing to. Sort the list in address order to be as efficient as you can. Scrub your list. Make sure you're not going into businesses that are on our do not contact list. We got to be prepared for that. And then use the scrub list to plan the route. So just like Dave was talking about, who is your target market? Who do you feel comfortable with? Where are you going to get the most success? Not going to the pizza guy where you're going to go in there and talk to, you got a manager and you got another employee that's over 18 because he can't get a better job, and then everybody else is under 18 and going to college, and be honest and commit to your plan. Guys, I can't tell you, it pains me, man, if I miss something on my calendar or something happens to me. I had an instance this week where for the first time in my Aflac career, I missed one appointment for a weird reason. It was a very early appointment. It wasn't on my mind. In 7 years, I have only missed, and it pains me to say this, I missed one appointment in 7 years. When it's on my calendar, I show up for it. No excuses. And don't let yourself down. Help yourself up through this activity, through this 200-point system. And so I want to touch on this, and then I want David to touch on it. Some people want things to happen. Some people wish it would happen, and others just make it happen. And that's going out there and tearing the cover off the ball. Guys, man, if you could look through my eyes and see what this career has given me, you would take this career called Aflac and you would say, you know what, nothing is going to stop me from being successful in this company, because listen, this changes my family's life. This changes my future. This changes my outcome. It's my desire to be successful on my own, independently, with a Fortune 500 company backing me up. Now listen, other thing is too, man, I want to spend more time with my family. That's the beauty of this business. Work hard Monday through Friday and have a great weekend with your family. But listen, if you start making excuses and saying, hey, listen, I want to spend more time with my family, so I'm going to cut off at Tuesday at noon, guess what you're doing? You're actually hurting your family. I'm going to be real with you. If you're cutting off early every single day, what's happening? You're extracting from your family's future. That you could write a check for your kid's college if you put enough time and energy in now. So when your kid goes to college, they say, hey, Mom, I can't get a Pell Grant because they don't do that anymore because the government's broke. You can say, hey, don't worry about it. I work for Aflac. I worked hard so you could have college, and I could spend more time with you in the future. Man, that's what it's about. Make it happen. That's what it's about.
That's fabulous. And I can tell you, clearly the people who haven't made it aren't on this call. But there are going to be some people who are on this call who are on the fence. Might make it, might not make it. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt whose fault it will be if you don't make it. It's not going to be Eric's fault. It's not going to be Dave's fault. It's not going to be your district's fault. Ultimately, the responsibility here is on you. We can lay out a plan for you. We can teach you how to make a plan. We can't implement your plan. You have to be responsible for that. This career is wonderful for those people who are disciplined and have a drive to succeed and to thrive. If you're not self-disciplined and you don't do the activity, if you don't do the right activity, you don't learn to improve your activity, that's on you. And so we're charged with the responsibility of giving you the tools. You got to use those tools and execute the plays.
And one thing, Dan Amos, if he was here right now, and I remember seeing him in an interview, and they said, if you had one thing that you could advise every Aflac associate so they can be successful in Aflac, what would it be? And you know what Dan Amos said? 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Simple. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And listen, stick with it. If you don't stick with it, you can't get better. You 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, man, activity in the field will make you a success story.
Great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. That's why we come on Fridays and do this webinar for you. Because even though it's your responsibility, you're not out there all by yourself. This is a beautiful hybrid system that allows you to build a business of your own without being in business by yourself. Mm-hmm. You've got the tools of Eric and myself and Aflac and your district managers to support you and give you the tools. I promise you, you couldn't spend the money on advertising that Aflac can spend on advertising for you. And so when you walk in the door, you got an advantage over other people. You're not in business all by yourself. If you feel like you're in business all by yourself, then you're not attending the meetings, you're not attending the webinars, you're not feeling like you're a part of the team. That's our goal, is to give you the opportunity to be part of a team so that together we can do much more. I promise you, if Eric did this webinar all by himself, it wouldn't be quite as powerful as having me to bring a different thing. If I was doing the webinar all by myself, it wouldn't be as powerful as having Eric there. It's the team interaction that allows us to be bigger and stronger than just doing it by ourselves.
Exactly right. I couldn't close out any better than that. So thank you guys. We appreciate you being in this call. This shows your commitment to your future with Aflac and being an entrepreneur that we all dream of being. Thanks, guys, and have a great day. And be ready for Monday. Get ready. Plan. Don't leave today without planning your 200 points for next week.
But one more thing. So that's a perfect point. But guess what Monday is? Monday's Memorial Day. You might not be working on Monday, but you know what I expect? I expect 200 points Tuesday through Friday.
That's right. And he's right. And so for both, are you doing a meeting Monday morning?
I mean, I'm working on Monday, but that's a choice for me. I got interviews scheduled. My office is closed. My people aren't coming into the office, but that doesn't mean I don't expect 200 points out of them.
That's right. So our team will have are you doing your Monday morning meeting? No, Tuesday? Are you doing it?
Nope. Oh, yes, on Tuesday, not on Monday.
So Tuesday, just so you know, for both of our teams, I will be doing a webcast for my team, and then Dave,
we're doing our Monday morning meeting on Tuesday. But understand that, whether you work on Monday or you don't work on Monday is your choice. Whether you work on a Saturday or don't work on a Saturday is your choice. I got interviews planned on Monday, so I'm doing them. But the point is this is your business. 200 points is what you're committing to. So Monday's a holiday. Have a great holiday weekend. But do your 200 points regardless.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you Tuesday on our webcast and Tuesday at Latimer's office for his meeting. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. I hope I did a great job for you. And Dave, I know he did a great job because I watched it.